fascinated with technology. I think that's also fair to say.
Always, since the sidekick.
So you've been there since day one with the little, I miss the sidekick.
Well,
the
since
keyboard.
before the sidekick.
Bring back keyboards on our phones, I think. How are you thinking about like AI as a whole and how it might disrupt just society? Do you have any concerns there, especially as you're working again with everyday people and entrepreneurs and figuring out how to integrate AI? Is there a concern we lose?
I think there is obviously a concern, but I think what we try to do at what I'm doing now is just bring people into it and let them know that it's one thing. Some platforms in AI, they're so easy, and it's very user friendly. And so I think that's a little bit of a difference as well. AI is very user friendly, and so a lot of people can adapt to it, and so a lot of people are adapting to it. So I feel like it's just the integration doesn't have to be as difficult as a lot of people think. Of course, there's going to be a lot of jobs left behind on the table. Of course, there's going to be a lot of things, but there's also going to be other things that open up. And so I think eventually we'll see that. I am not a person that predicts the future. I don't know, and I'm not an expert on that. But what I can say is that there is going to be obviously there has already been a huge shift and a huge change, and it's going to continue to be that, but there will be other opportunities that open up as well.
So, Serena, you're involved in many ventures, from VC, as we've been discussing, to partnering with brands, to own personal investments in things like sports. What is a week like in Serena Inc.?
Oh my God, it's insane. I don't know how I survive. I had a coffee earlier because usually I don't have this much energy, and this is a lot of energy for me. So imagine low. So a week, I have calls, team calls, SV calls, Serena Venture calls, I should say. And I also have 2 kids, and I am like the ultimate hands-on mom. I take them to school, I pick them up, I cook every night, except for the weekends. I kind of check out on the weekends. But I check back in on Monday morning. I love cooking, so that's like my thing. And I still travel. I still work with different brands like Nike and other companies. So it is. This week I was actually in Atlanta for a couple days, and I'm here, and in between I was at home, and I'm going to LA in a couple of days, and this is a crazy week. So it's kind of nonstop. And so I also meal prep for my kids, so I like cook things that they can eat while I'm out of town.
By the way, speaking of that, I heard you once say that Olympia's interning at her dad's company.
No, my
swear.
daughter is interning at my company.
Oh, she's interning.
Yes,
Excuse me,
yes.
that is my fault.
He did claim summer internship. I'm
see.
like, okay, but I get the rest of the year. She needs to see amazing women doing amazing things, and not that he isn't. His things are way more amazing than mine. I mean, my husband's a genius, but she can get the genius in the summer, and she can get me the rest of the year. So it's really nice. It's cool because I always have, like, my niece and nephew interned for me when I was a tennis player, and so now Olympia's going to do it, but on the business side. So it's going to be fun to see.
I love that. So you're definitely encouraging her to go the business route of things.
No, I want her to be a tennis player, obviously. That's way more fun. But she can do business if she wants to.
I love that. So one thing that, again, you've done as from a very young age is working with different brands and understanding what sort of fits your portfolio, who you want to endorse and who you don't. In an age of social media, there's just so much more demand for those types of deals. How do you think about it? How do you evaluate different brand deals, different endorsements, and making sure you don't dilute your own personal brand?
I think for me, when it comes to aligning with different brands, I really have to align with something that speaks to me, and something that I use, or something that I can benefit from, or something that is very authentic to me. And I think, as you said, now in the era of social media, new generation, they really can see through the BS, right? And so it's really important. And I think brands have also understood this and caught on that if it's not authentic, it's not going to work. And so a lot of things are doing better now because they're using either micro-influencers or they're using influencers and not necessarily celebrities, because it's very authentic to them and they're actually using the product and they show how the product works, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, when I align with a brand, I usually like to have a very long-term relationship. Sometimes I even know people before we actually work together. but it has to be very authentic. It has to be something that I truly believe in from my soul and that I can really go out there and talk about. I don't want to go out there and talk about something that's fake and that's not real, because I just can't do that. And so for me, it's very important to be able to talk about something that's real, that I've had a real hands-on experience with, and that I can really, understand.
I say that feels like a through line to your investments as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When it comes to investing as well, I like to really make sure, maybe I don't use it, but I want to make sure that I understand it. And if I were younger or if I were older, like we do a ton of stuff in health and women's health as well. And I think that's such a big, important part of this conversation. That's half of our population.
Yeah.
That's a huge,
Yeah,
target.
if I'm not mistaken, one of your portfolio companies was the first to get FDA approval for at-home pap smears.
Yes.
Which is huge.
It's huge. And so women's health, historically, it's huge. It's this company called Till. They got FDA approved, and it was a very long process. We invested in them a long time ago. Very long process. They finally got approved to have an at-home pap smear, which is something really that should have existed for women a long time ago. And the fact that it took that long to get approval, that's another story. But women's health is something that's been totally forgotten. But the difference is now is this with technology and this new generation that's aging and that's getting older, they're comfortable talking about things that weren't really so open in the past. And so now that they're comfortable talking about it, they're comfortable investing in it, they're comfortable getting more information behind it, and they want to feel better. We want to feel better, right? And so it's such an incredibly interesting sector to invest in because it's such a big market, and it also helps so many people. And that's what I said. That's the intersection between helping people and being successful at it. And there's so many intersections like that. It's not just women's health. It's just so many different areas. But that's another one of our passions, is just to invest in things like that that are helping, changing, and also fruitful.
Yeah. Well, one of the other sectors that you've invested in is sports, something you've also done for a while, from the Miami Dolphins here in Miami to more recently the new Toronto Tempo WNBA franchise. What's the investment thesis driving those?
Well, gosh, I did the Dolphins, honestly, I want to say 18 years ago. So I've really been investing for a very long time, way before it was popular for athletes to invest. Gosh, obviously, I think that's an obvious next step for us. I mean, we do a lot of boring, non-sexy software, things. But now we are definitely doing more in sport. I do a little stuff on the personal side for sport as well. But I don't know. I feel like it's quite interesting to do a little bit more in sport.
Are you looking at more in sport then, it sounds like?
Well, yeah, I've always been obviously interested in sport, I would say. Sport's pretty cool.
A very fair
A lot of people
are
are investing in women's sport, and I feel like obviously that's where my heart and soul is for obvious reasons. And it's interesting because people are just noticed women's sport. And I'm like, well, women's sport has been around for decades and decades and decades, and we were always amazing, and you guys just noticed. But it's good that we're getting noticed now, and I love the support that it's getting. And so the best way to show that support is to invest.
Well, again, a lot of your investing philosophy comes from sport. And one thing I remember you've said is that success is about how you handle the losses. Mm-hmm. That's abundantly clear in just the absolute upper echelons that you perform as an athlete. When it comes to businesses, what's been a tough business loss, and what has it taught you? Have you applied the same lesson in what you're doing now?
I mean, there's some investments that I missed that are huge right now. And that was a loss. How do I take that? It's just, you just have to learn, like, why did you pass on it or why did you miss it? And also in the future, like if you do pass on something or you do miss something or you just don't see it and it just, for whatever reason, at that moment it doesn't connect with you or anyone on your team, then we literally will take our calls and we go back and we try to, I want to know who did the pass, why did we do the pass, who was on the call, and we really dive into it. I think that's the athlete in me, is just going back to understanding. It's like you study film. And I kind of bring that to the firm as like, okay, I need to know every single reason why it didn't work, why we passed, what was the method behind it, who wrote the pass, who called. And also, so what we do now is if we do pass, because we're such early stage investors, so we do now have an opportunity to invest in follow-ons. So what we do now is like, okay, what can we do better? If we pass on something, let's stay in contact with these founders. If we just maybe just stay in contact with them, we check in on them. That way, if they're doing successful and they do raise another round of funding, we still have that opportunity to invest in the next round at a higher valuation, but we still have that opportunity to invest. And so that's kind of how we handled those losses in the past. And so now, even if we do miss something, which is inevitable in VC, in particular now that everyone is doing AI, so now what we do is we just say, okay, we try to stay in contact with our founders and we pass on. We're very kind. We give them different reasons, but we always let them know we would love to stay in contact and continue to learn and how you're growing. And we've actually passed recently on a couple investments, but we stayed in contact with them, and then we came in on a later round and happened to be discounted because they really wanted the firm in there. And all because of we incorporated that loss, it made us better. Sometimes losing is important because we learn very valuable lessons. And now, if we hadn't lost, we wouldn't be in all these other amazing companies that we got into.
Serena, I'd love to end kind of where we began, this idea that it wasn't a retirement, it was an evolution.
Yes.
What's next in the evolution of Serena Williams?
What's next in the evolution of Serena? Time off, just definitely taking a breather. I never took too much time off, maybe a vacation. I don't know. I've really tried to build a really great team so I can take a lot of time off. Maybe one more hire, and then I could take an even bigger step back. And so that's what's next.
I love that.
Yes.
And that is a perfect note to end it on, so we can give Serena some time off. Everyone, please join me in thanking Serena Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.